I'm gonna show you how to save over $100 a month on your lease payment. If you don't know who I am, my name's Tommy. I've been in the car business most of my adult life. I've done sales, I've done finance, I was a manager. Now I negotiate car deals for a living, but enough about me. Let's talk about saving money on lease. Today's video is all about saving money on your lease. This is not a video if leasing makes sense or not. I have videos on that. You can watch that. Spoiler alert, I think it's just another way of financing. But that all being said, I wanna save you money on leases. This is not the normal run-of-the-mill saving money on a lease video. I promise you there's gonna be some tips you might have never heard. One of these tips, 70% of salespeople that I talk to have no idea what it is. Do not put money down on a lease. It is one of the worst financial investments you can do. The reason being is if your lease payments equal out to $20,000 and you put $5,000 down, your lease payments now equal out to $15,000. All you're doing is prepaying payments. Now, the reason that's a problem is if you total the car out 3 months down the road, 4 months down the road, guess what? You're out that $5,000. You don't get any positive equity in a lease, but you get to walk away with it because it's built-in equity. So do not put cash down. You are just costing yourself money. There's no advantage. Just put that money in a bank account and then use that to make the payments. It'll all equal out to the same. It's about money management. Before you negotiate any lease, you want to make sure you figure out what your target payment is. A target payment is what your payment should be if everything goes according to plan. I have videos on this, so go into my videos, find exactly how to calculate a lease payment. I'm not going to go into that in full detail, but you want to figure out what your target payment is. Once you figure out what your target payment is, you're going to use that to negotiate. When I negotiate a lease, it is a lot different than when I negotiate a finance deal. I'm going to tell them what I expect the MSRP of this car is, what I expect the discount of this car is, what money factor is, what residual value is, what I expect everything to equal out to payment, and then exactly what cash down I plan on putting down, which is normally just first month's payment, and any rebates the car has. I give them all of this when I'm negotiating a lease and say, can you make this work or can you not? Because when you're negotiating a lease, you have to remember there are so many things a dealership can manipulate. They can manipulate the price of the car, the price of the trade, the money factor. Anything along these lines can be manipulated, and money factor is not something you can see until you see the final bank contract, which is very confusing still to read. So understand that you want to just tell them everything you want and then negotiate from there. This is similar to the cash down, but a lot of people don't know this, is you can actually take equity out of a lease. So let's say you're trading in a car and it has $10,000 of equity. You're winning, awesome, that's great. You can actually what we call cash out that equity. So before you sign your lease, you just tell the dealer that I would like to take any equity I have in my car as cash. They will write you a check for $10,000 or whatever that equity is for cash, and then your payments are going to be normal. You don't want to use that equity towards your lease payments because it's the same as cash. Now let's talk about the tip that 70% of salespeople don't know about, which is MSDs, or multi-security deposits. Now I know I had a whole deal about cash down, but MSDs are completely different. The reason why people don't know about this is that only certain brands support them, which is most German brands, some Japanese brands, but on top of that, not every dealership supports them. And really, salespeople never deal with this. It's only for people that have leased a lot of cars that understand it. So how an MSD works, it's basically a deposit that you can put down in your lease. How I explain it to my clients is imagine it as money you're putting in a CD at a bank. You're gonna put that money to the manufacturer, they're gonna hold that money. Let's just say it's $4,500. But what that does is lower your interest rate. And by lowering your interest rate, it's gonna lower your payment. If you max out your MSDs on a loan, let's just say it's $4,500, that again is fully refundable. You will then maybe lower that interest rate by 1%, maybe even 2%, depending on the manufacturer, and that can reduce your payment by 50, 60, 70 bucks. I've seen it on Mazdas, I've seen it on BMWs. So learn about MSDs. I can do a whole video separate on this, but I wanna make sure that people understand if it does support MSDs, you wanna use that as cash down versus that because that is fully refundable money and it's just lowering the interest rate, which is saving you more money. When I talk about leasing being another form of financing, sometimes leasing actually makes more sense than financing depending on interest rates. For example, I'll use an example I'm using right now, which is the Mazda CX-5 has phenomenal lease rates, but it also has phenomenal retail rates. But if you are the lease, let's just say a base model Mazda, you can actually get the interest rate down to less than 1%. Compare that to financing the car, you can only get an interest rate at 3%. Now, all that being said, it depends on how long you own the car. There's a thing on Lease Hacker, which is a website I've talked about multiple times. You can actually have it input the math on how long you own the car, how many mileage, and what the equity would be in both situations to see if it would make sense. But just understand if you're financing a car, it might sometimes make more sense to lease. You always want to calculate both. Last tip, and then I'm done. A lot of manufacturers have built-in wear and tear protection. So what that means is they will actually cover X amount of wear and tear before the car is actually done. So make sure you understand that if you're gonna buy any of those protection plans, look at the lease and make sure none of that's included. You don't wanna ask because a lot of them will be vague and say, they don't cover a lot. look into the fine print. I'd just Google it. Does wear and tear come protected in a Chrysler? Does it come protected in a Ram? Whatever the brand is, just look and you're gonna learn really quick and understand that if it's built in. If it's built in, you probably don't need that unless you are very, very rough on your cars. The only thing that I recommend for people on products is normally a maintenance plan. The reason being is the whole reason we lease a car is not to worry about things. And if you can get a maintenance plan at a good price, then it normally is worth it. You know, a lot of these maintenance plans also have coupons for when you release. I know for Subaru, for example, they have a maintenance coupon that you get $500 off your next lease. So it's a pretty good deal because it basically pays for the maintenance itself. But these are all the tips I have today. If you guys want a part 2 on this, let me know. I want you to like, follow, subscribe, but thank you and have a great day.